Hello everyone, Michelle here from the Creative Cove. Thanks for joining me today. So today I thought I would show you how I do my little side cluster page. I don't even know what they're called. Let's move this out of the way for a second. These guys here, I mean they're clusters to me, and I just basically glue them or sew them right to a side of a page insert of my signatures. So I just use up scraps. So usually what I do is I'll do something like this, and then I'll have a bunch of leftovers on my desk. And if I'm still in the mood to keep crafting, then I will just sew them to the side of my page. And I like the little consistency that it adds. So I have like a journaling card here that's part of this journal, and it matches all the other elements within the journal. So there's a couple, I did a video on how I make these. So I thought I would show you how I make the little clusters on the side. Do I have any more? Here's another one with a different fabric. And it's really just using up scraps again, because that's what I like to do. So let's make some of those. So what I've been doing in my studio, and I'm sorry if you hear a rumbling in the background, it is the snowblower going. We got about 1.5 feet of snow, and it's -21 outside right now. So today is a good day to craft. It's not pleasant to be outside just yet. Even though it's bright and sunny, it's still deceivingly cold. So what I've been doing while I've been trying to organize and create a creative space in my house, I have a studio space that I'm trying to get set up. I'm taking my time and sorting through everything. I'm getting rid of stuff I don't use. I'm reducing the amount of things I have. Even though I don't have a huge range of materials and tools, I tend to collect things that I don't need. In the bottom line, you know what it's like if you're a journaler or a crafter. You keep everything. So blah blah blah. Anyways, I have now sorted my scraps into these bins, and I just got these at a Staples, Business Depot or whatever it's called, and I've sorted them into, so this one is neutrals with texture, as in fonts or designs. This one is neutrals and plains, because these are always my go-tos. And then I've got this one is just a kind of a mishmash of full-size papers that I get from your creative studios and a couple of other places, and some digitals that have been cut up but not really used yet. And then this one is color, so this one has anything with color in it. So that's how I sorted my scraps so far, and right now it seems to be working for me. Trying to get organized, it's difficult. If you're good at organizing, that is awesome. Any tips and skills that you've come up with along the way, please share, because I am just learning to organize. Excuse me, sorry. Woo. It's apparently dusty in here. Okay, so what are we going to make? What are we going to use? I have these scraps here from our bubble paper that we made that I'd like to use up. So we'll use some of that. I'm going to put these aside over here, but that's what I'll be grabbing if you see me reaching over there. It will be my scraps. So let's see here. I'm going to start with maybe a couple of blank page. So this is going to be two papers that are going in, and they're just thin coffee dyed papers. So what I like to do is basically I usually use up what's left on my desk, but because I'm starting from scratch on this video, I don't have too much scraps on my desk. So let's find some bigger pieces. Look through the neutrals here, and this is just so nice to just pull this out and go straight into my neutrals, which is usually what I go to. There's a couple scraps of watercolor paper. I just want some backing pieces right now, kind of foundation pieces I call them. Maybe grab a couple of different textured papers. Okay, a piece of bag there. And then maybe we'll go in this one. In my neutrals, this is fun. You can rip this guy out and it's just a stamp. Some writing, some music note paper, another stamp. Butterflies are always winners. Some ledger paper. I think I got some of that already. Here's another stamped piece of vellum that's come off another project. So it's very easy to get overwhelmed with the amount of paper you have. So I just went for it and I was like, I can't keep all this. This is ridiculous. I've got to limit it. So that's fun handwriting. Piece of a, I guess that's a piece off a, what is that called? For sewing pattern. My brain. Okay, so what I tend to do is I've accumulated a few. Here's some scraps that I had put some sewing in. So they're ready with texture as well, in case you don't want to get the sewing machine out. So I'm going to take some bigger pieces. It's where I usually like to start is longer pieces as my foundation. I've got my ruler here. Like I said, my desk is messy. I've got a lot of stuff kicking around. Maybe make this a little bit thinner. Okay, and then I get my glue sticks out. Here it is. And I'm gonna do, let's do 3. And I just start gluing stuff down that I like. So I'll just throw some glue on. And I'll put some papers down. And basically you're just making a collage, really, of papers that you have left over from something. And I don't do too many because I don't want the page too overwhelming. I just want to embellish the page a little bit. You can use ink, of course, paint, anything you want. So to add some more interest to this, I would add, say, some of this stuff. I don't know what this is called. Cheesecloth, maybe? Just maybe cut a piece. Whatever you've got. I've got ribbons. I pulled out a few things for the video. So I have this ribbon here I got for $1. I've got this stuff. And what I do with my scrap ribbons is I'll wrap them around old playing cards and I'll put a pin in them. And then they go in the drawer like this. So that's something else I did this weekend to organize. Yeah, I was very, very determined to get my studio in gear. It's still not there. Still got work to do. But I feel like I accomplished something this weekend, which is really nice. So I might do something like that on that one. And you can see they go pretty quick. The idea is to not spend hours cleaning your desk at the end of the day, but maybe just use up some of the scraps you've got out that you used. Let's see here. This is kind of fun with the zigzag in it. And I don't worry about it being glued perfectly down because I'm going to throw a stitch through here. So you can do this with no sewing machine, of course, but you want to use more glue. A little focused on a little more glue than I have been. Let's use some of this grungy paper. This is always fun poking out. Oops. Maybe we'll move this down here. I don't like it over the butterfly anyways. Put it down here. This guy, I think I'm going to glue behind. So sometimes I like to distort the edge here by putting some tear on the outside. And then let's see, I've got this piece. Use that up. And let's just put a little on this one. I love those YouTubers that their desk is so neat and tidy as they create. It blows my mind because mine, as you can see, never looks that way. That's a really cool piece of paper. That looks like my stamped tissue paper and watercolor that I did. I can't throw those away. They're just so fun to use on other ways. So put that down. Let's see here, maybe tear this guy a little bit. So it's really just playing, and you can see how fast you can move on these. So at the end of the day, you've created stuff and you have all these tiny scraps kicking around. This is a really fun project to use those up. And what's nice is if you're creating a journal, for example, and you have these scraps left, when you incorporate them into these little clusters for your pages, it makes it all cohesive because you've just used all the same papers creating those other things. Does that make sense? Those other pages. It's a bit wide. Ooh, this one's fun. So again, little scraps I've got kicking around. Something like this. Just put it right on there. I also like the stamps. So if I've been using some stamps and I have them out still, I will use those. So this one I really like. These are just from the dollar store, super cheap. It's nice to have a couple of cheap ones where you don't stress over losing them or damaging them. And I'm just going to throw in a little bit more texture. So this is Close to My Heart Cocoa. I'm just going to throw it in here. And it's not even a full impression, you know, it's just random. Especially if you, again, have incorporated these stamps in any other part of the journal. Maybe grab another one. Let's try another one. Let's try this flowery one here. So very subtle, but something. Just a little something, something on the side. And then I will take this stuff. Now this one's really long for the journal I have. So you can leave it poking out or whatever. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to sew through it and then cut it in half. So I'm going to take this and maybe this guy. And I'm going to sew them down. But I'm going to do that off camera because I can't get my sewing machine under the camera. And I also am a terrible sewer. So I get stressed when I'm filming and I'm sewing. I'll be right back. Okay, so you can see I have just sewn down some lacy bits onto these little scraps. So I just did a little cluster of things. And that's pretty much what it's all about, is just using up the pieces that are left over on your desk. So this is brown thread. It really kind of shows up against this. But again, I don't want to spend lots of time making things perfect. I just want to, by changing the thread and matching it all and all that, I just want to use up the scraps that are on my desk left over from when I'm journaling. So I will now add these to, say, a page. So where did I put that page? Here's a couple of pages I have here that I need to chop down because I want to use them in this journal. I thought I had a smaller one. This one's a bit tall. So here's some pages here. So here's one that I wanted to chop down. And these are just pages that I have left over from another project. So I'm going to add this and maybe turn it into a journal card at some point. But I'm just going to take one of these clusters. I probably won't add it to this side because there's enough going on. So I think I'll add it to this side. And I will probably sew through there. Maybe just glue. I think I'm going to sew it. So that one I'll sew. This one, again, pretty busy on that side. This one's a little bit more subtle. You can turn these into pockets by sewing just around here. But for this purpose, I'm going to just sew it on the side here. So maybe not cover the bird. So I'm just going to pull that piece off. So for this one, I will glue. Just show you how easy these go on. So I'm just gonna dollop the glue on where I want it to reside. And stick her down and decide what do I want poking out the book. And just make sure that's glued on. And this is kind of fun too, with the other texture. So there's that page. Let me just go sew this and I'll show you. Okay, so I sewed here. So when you're sewing, of course, you always want to make sure that there is a second side. So when I lined this piece up and I really wanted this kind of broken paper on the outside, I wanted to make sure I didn't go through my sketch. So I just made sure I sewed on the side. And what's nice is it's kind of created a little tuck spot. So what I like to do with those sometimes is just, because this page is so busy, I would take a plain piece of coffee dyed paper, and then it becomes a little journaling card in here that I can just add in. And it kind of, what it does is going to visually break this little cluster we added against the busy background. And then it's got a little journal piece. So something super simple with these scraps. Again, at the end of the day, when you've been crafting along and you've been creating these journals, all the little scraps, just put them to a side and then just glue them together and sew them to empty pages in your signatures that you've created. So this one's pretty naked here, right here. This one could go right here. It just adds, it still gives you room to journal or sketch or whatever it is you might want to use the journal for. But it just adds some little interest. And it's taken you 15 minutes to make them, depending how elaborate you get. So I think I'll even stick this one to this side. You could stick them to the top. You can do that any way you like. That's kind of a fun contrast in the bubbles. I think I'll leave the bubbles though. I'm going to do it on this side. So I'm just going to glue. So much fun. And just love using up scraps. It's so satisfying, especially when they're all sorted. Oh man, it's so fun just to come in the studio and go straight to the papers. I'm so happy with that, as opposed to kind of rummaging through and looking. So here's another one I did. So I hope that gives you some ideas, some creative inspiration to use up those little leftover scraps at the end of the day. It also helps, well, helps me anyways, stay a little bit tidier in my craft room. And by a little, I mean a little. But there you go. I hope that gave you some ideas, inspiration, and a way to use up your scraps. So have fun crafting, everyone. Take care. Bye.